having a husband that studies Torah is a diamond. That's the real diamond, not the one that can produce stacks of dollar bills that can buy the diamond, because that's material. At the end, it's going to go away. But when he's learning diamonds and chidushim of Torah, that's going to last eternity. And the real praise of the husband is in the next world, when the woman says, wow, you were right for having me to sacrifice to study Torah. And they can have this big palace in Shemayim, whatever that looks like.
This is one thing that also really needs to be advertised and sold properly to the public, I think, is that there is no social system that raises women on as high a pedestal as the Torah lifestyle. It's not being properly advertised.
And I would agree. And again, we have to model relationships that worked. I mean, let's look at the Lubavitch Rebbe. Him and his wife, even they didn't even have any children, but the relationship that they had and the goal and the focus that they had on each other. Rav Eliashev, Zikron Tzadik Lebracha, his wife, they are, and my Rosh Yeshiva too, and his wife, they are a model. I mean, the Rosh Yeshiva has been on this, created this place 50 years ago, and I can't even, I mean, he has over 150 grandchildren and great-grandchildren. They're involved in Torah, and there's no sense of poverty, and there's no sense of lacking, and there's no sense of, oh no, life is going to end because we don't have the biggest house. And they live a modest lifestyle, and they're getting their needs taken care of and having more and more children, because that is a main purpose of getting married and having children and seeing, those creations come together.
I'm very glad that you brought that up, because the matter of having children and the number of children people have has drastically changed, I think, in present times as well from what it used to be. It used to be that couples wanted to have as many children as they could, even if they were in poverty, because they counted on God to provide for those children, and they saw every child as being a bracha. And to me, if somebody were to ask me, how many children do you want to have? I wouldn't say 2, 3, 4. I would say as many children as I could possibly have, because I see every child as a bracha. If you ask me how much money do I want to have, I wouldn't put a limit. I'd say as much as possible, as much as God is willing to give me. The same thing with children. If having children is a bracha, then why would you want to put a limit on that? I'd say I'd want to have as many children as I'm able to have. And how can you manage to, how do you take care of that? You say the same God that's giving me the children will give me the resources to be able to raise those children properly. But nowadays, it's very different. We see children as a burden. Children are very expensive. Children are taking away from the other things I could be doing with my life. Children are not seen as a bracha anymore, but as more as a burden and a responsibility. And I think that's one of the other issues that the Orthodox world is not properly addressing, is how do we educate people to see children as a bracha?
I agree too. I mean, I have a 4.5-year-old son, and every time that I go in to see him on the days of seeing him and being with him and interacting with him, that, coming home and having children, and God willing, everyone has as many children as they can have. And
David had many children. Of course, he was a king and he had the resources.
He even had problems, but
he had many problems, but he loved all of his children, and he wanted to have as many children as possible. And if we look at the avos, the one thing they wanted more than anything as well, both the fathers and the mothers, they wanted to have children and as many children as possible.
And again, I think that what you're saying is correct. Like I've read a story of a Chassidish story where the student just comes to his Rebbe and says how much problem he's having and how can he have more kids and all those problems that you're saying. And again, it's all about the perception that a person has. That the Rebbe gave him the advice of, you're having another child, which is another place to put in Shefa, another place for Hashem to. You never know how to change your mazel, and one way to change your mazel is to have more children, because now you have a more sense of kingship and a bigger kingship, and as you expand your kingship or your malchut, and you have more people underneath you, Hashem has to provide more for you. This is why Jerusalem's a spiritual place, because you never get any sleep.